They actually did it. They actually fixed the opening song of Genius Prince. Seriously, go back to episode 1, episode 2, and you'll see what I'm talking about. They legitimately took the opening up from episode 3, and then they came back with the opening in episode 4 with an entirely new format, re-edited, animated, etc. It actually looks really good. Do I think it is like the best opening of the season? No, but it actually legitimately looks like a decent opening song. So just props to that. Props to the team that took some time back and actually, redid the opening song, finished the opening song, whatever was going on internally. I'm glad to see the opening song a lot better than it was when the series first started. That is definitely something that needs to be praised. But before we go any further, if you hear anything in the background, it's raining. I apologize, but there's literally nothing I can do about it because it's just been raining all day. Been waiting for the rain to pass, but it's not gonna happen. So anyway, so that out of the way though, let's talk about the content of episode 4 of Genius Prince. So one of the big things that I do want to talk about is just the hilarious nature of how that royal, prince or whatever, just straight up died. Like, he legitimately just tried to have a mock sword fight with Wayne, our MC, and because of an accident, he fell off the balcony, and legitimately, he died in such a pathetic way, and it's just like, what? Oh, okay, seriously, I am in legitimate shock for a variety of reasons. For one, throughout the episode, we're led to believe that, Wayne and Loa, they're constantly butting heads. We see them going back and forth, trying to, outsmart each other. But in the end, thanks to the prince that, died, for instance, he kind of threw a wrench in both of their plans, and neither of them really expected the outcome of what happened in this episode, and they made the best of it to, get what they actually needed. I think that was a very interesting twist, and it could show that this series can keep you on your toes, and you won't even know what to expect, because while the episode was, coming out, while I was watching it, I was just like, I thought one of them were going to one-up each other, but no, it kept that balance between the two characters, which is definitely something I want to talk about. So when it comes to the Genius Prince, there is definitely something that I kind of slightly talked about in my overall video I made last week, my redone first impressions. I want to mention that the chemistry between Loa and Wayne is beautiful. It's perfect. It really adds a whole new level and layer to the show of enjoyability, and I'm really loving episode 4 for that. I'm loving the series a lot more thanks to the chemistry between the two characters, because literally Loa is a female Wayne. That's exactly what she is. She is the perfect character to just go up against the mentality of Wayne and having these two characters bickering, going back and forth. It reminds me a lot of the energy between Light and Elle. Now, obviously not to that certain extent of storytelling, but I'm just saying a perfect contrast as characters to continue outsmarting each other, trying to one-up each other to see who is actually more smarter and successful than the other. I like that. I love the bickering and the back and forth, and it's just beautiful storytelling with the characters because it expands upon the characters while seeing them trying to outsmart each other. So, yeah, I love their interactions, and just everything about them throughout episode 4 was something that just brought me a lot of joy, and I'm really liking this series a lot more. As I said in my redone first impressions, coming back into this series with a little bit more of a level head and not with a lot of bias and anger from other things, it's really a good series. I don't think this is the best series of the season, but it is definitely a good series to watch in the middle of the week, and I'm having a good time with it. So, let's actually talk about the plot. When it comes to episode 4 and what it's trying to do, mainly it has to focus on Loa getting married and then also trying to stop a rebellion. And obviously the whole marriage thing just fell through towards the end of the episode thanks to the one prince dying, but the rebellion obviously needs to be stopped. And thanks to circumstances and how the series kind of ramps up its tension towards the end of the episode, you come to see that, Wayne and Loa have to work together, set aside everything else to just stop the rebellion because it could cause a lot more problems if they don't actually settle it. But in turn, this is probably going to give Loa exactly what she wants. And what I mean by that is that Wayne's entire people, his nation, will technically openly be supporting Loa as a potential candidate for the throne. And what I mean by that is even though they obviously are putting aside everything else, and that's kind of the impression you get towards the end, with him even willing to work with Loa and stomp out a rebellion, it paints him in a way to where he is willing to help her regardless, to help the nation, the empire, etc. So he's falling into her trap. Even if maybe she doesn't even know this, he is falling into her trap, and circumstances are going to lead it to where people are going to believe he is going to support and help her. His nation is going to support and help her. So I did notice that towards the end of the episode, the way it was kind of shifting the storytelling towards. I do wonder if that's going to pop up in the upcoming episode, but it is definitely something that does need to be mentioned. Speaking of being mentioned, there is a little detail that is very quick, short, and I could be not seeing this correctly, but I believe the squire that apparently relayed the dagger and the message to the opposing, force that's going to have the rebellion, that person laying in the bed looked oddly like Nin, and I believe that was like the helper, the attendant to Wayne's sister that we saw in the previous episode, and her hairstyle does look, oddly enough, very similar to the character in the opening song. So I could be looking at things too deeply, but I believe, looking at the way everything went down, it seems like maybe it's very likely Nin and also maybe Wayne's sister potentially set something up with the prince to allow all of this to happen. Maybe they're working with Loa. So Wayne isn't just having to deal with, let's say, Loa. He's having to deal with, let's say, his retainers and his sister potentially starting things up to have him work with Loa. That is the impression I got. The hidden theme or message going on behind the scenes throughout this episode. Like I said, I could be wrong with that, but I did notice that squire that was laying in the bed looked oddly enough like that person, and I believe she is the retainer to Wayne's sister. Just wanted to reinforce that. But anyways, in terms of art and animation, I guess let's talk about that since they, redid the opening song. Art and animation, I have to say, is a lot better and more consistent this week than the previous episodes. I guess it's in part due to the lack of CGI usage, and I want to clarify something. As I've always said, CGI isn't inherently bad. I know that is the general impression everybody gets, but that is not the case. CGI can be very good and used in different ways, and regardless of that, I noticed that this episode was very consistent, like I said. It felt like it was properly paced. It didn't feel very fast. The art and animation seemed solid, and it seemed like everybody was kind of on board, on track with the actual production of the episode. That is the general feeling I got while watching it, because if you look at the first 3 episodes, like, they're good. They are good. Like, better than the first episode, but the episode 2 and 3 are really good. And when you look at the episodes progressing, they get better and better. Like, you can feel the production getting better. And I feel like when I look at episode 4, and just judging by the opening song and how it's actually finished, it makes me assume that they were really behind production or schedule with some things. They were behind a little bit, and they finally have caught up with episode 4. That is my general impression that I have gotten after watching the latest episode. So, diving a little bit deeper, is Genius Prince a good anime? Now that I've watched as many episodes as I have, and is it building up into something interesting? Yes, I actually think that the Genius Prince is one of the better series of this anime season. I do think that the characters are definitely getting a lot more fascinating, more involved, and I do like seeing the different side of Nin as well throughout the episode, and how she showed a lot of anger when someone looked down upon Wayne as a person, because this is a huge contrast to episode 2, because in episode 2 that was discovered, when Wayne heard someone make fun of his retainer, Nin, he got very upset. He went out of his way, got very emotional, and took out the actual commander of the army. And in this episode, you see Nin get very upset when Wayne is made fun of. And it implies a lot of things. It implies that maybe Nin would react in a very similar manner, and maybe the reason why the guy died is potentially because of her. Who knows? But that's just something I do want to point out. I do like that little detail of Nin as well. So the episodes have done a very good job of establishing the characters, giving a lot more depth and life to them. And like I said, the production is just a lot better. It's shaping up to be a really good series. And usually around this point, around episode 4 of an anime, usually production kind of pitters out, like it just becomes very steady, and like it might go up, might go down, it just depends. But it seems like when it comes to this anime, production has steadied itself into a way where it's kind of slightly going upward, thanks to the rough start of the anime. That's, like I said, my general impression. But I guess I'm going to leave it at that. It's good. Can't wait to watch episode 5 to see where the story's going to go and to see exactly how Wayne and Loa are going to take down the rebellion and stop it. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, how you felt about this week's episode of the series. Are you going to catch up if you haven't started it? Are you going to watch the episode if you've yet to watch it? Let me know your honest thoughts in the comments below. But with that, guys, be safe, stay healthy. Chibi out.